Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most exciting things, at least for the people on the dance floor and maybe also for us producing. And it's gonna be breaks and drops. Drops are considered to be the peak moments of dance tracks. So it's super important to have a big break that leads the listener to the point where he really wants to hear that drop. You can say he almost begs for it. We're gonna have a look today at a melodic techno sketch. It's 125 BPM, and the important thing I want to talk about here is how the drop starts and if we can make that better. So let's just have a listen first and then let's see what we can do. So we have a nice build up already. There's like 2 pads going on and an arpeggiator and later some hi-hats that push the thing a little higher. And the critical moment now is right here where we come from the break to the drop. And in this particular example, we have a super loud part right ahead of the drop. So everything is rising, filters get opened, and then it just hops right into the drop. And that maybe can be arranged a little better, because the problem here is we have a super loud point right in front of the drop, and then the drop is minimized. There's not all the hi-hats coming back. There's not the clap and the snare coming back here. It's just the kick, the bass, and this kind of LFO going lead sound. The problem here is it's quieter. It seems quieter. It doesn't seem as big as it could be. So what I want to try here is I want to make a little gap, maybe like this, or even longer. And that's a super typical way to go. You probably heard it in a lot of tracks because a lot of people are doing it. It's a common technique at the moment, and you could call it pre-drop area, maybe like pre-drop. After everything rises up really high, there will be this point of silence or almost silence, where you can give the listener a moment of breathing and a moment of kind of wanting the drop even more before the drop then hits. And by kind of resetting the listener's brain, making everything quiet again, the drop will hit harder. I'm gonna be doing this live with you. First thing, we want the arpeggio and the pad over here to end earlier. We have some automations here, so we want to be a little careful with this and maybe just move it all back here. This one is actually fine, I would say. Maybe lift it a little higher here. And this one is the group going into a reverb, so we also put this a little more in the front. This one can go away, and this one we also put it just here, so it ends on this point. This is where we want to have our silent time. So let's delete this here. The heads can also stop. And maybe let's just have a listen now first. I guess you can already feel and hear what I mean. So because of the little gap, the drop feels much more powerful and bigger. And this gap can be designed in a very nice way now. There's a lot of different options, and let's just try one here. So I want to go with the arpeggiator, and this here is the release and decay, so I want to go back down with that. And this here is the envelope on the cutoff, so let's also put that back down. The sync warp can also go back down here. And then I want the reverb on the group to also go back to 0. Like this. Maybe, let's just have a listen first. Exactly. So check this out. All right, that's cool already. Can be made a little better maybe. Let's go down here a little bit earlier. And also here. It's always like those little nuances. And then it would be nice to have something that kind of opens the drop. So what we have now is the arpeggiator giving us a signal something will happen soon. And then maybe there should be like a punch that opens up everything, you know? So let's just take the perk here, like this. That's cool. And we can even end the ARP here maybe. So this perk, this clap with the reverb kind of ends the arpeggiator. Little gap again, and then the drop hits. And actually there's no boundaries to that. So we can always try more stuff. For example, we have this bass sound here. I'm pretty sure that will work fantastically right here. So that works really well together, right? We have those three sounds, the arpeggiator, the bass, and also the perk, the clap, and they kind of balance each other out. Like the arpeggiator goes down, then the bass drone lifts it up, and the perk is like a little hit to give the signal like, boom, here's the drop. And also opens up a little space with the reverb. So for comparison, I want to have another listen from the beginning. So because it's always important to have a kind of overview over everything you do. Alright, so what we did now was basically taking a little part of the break and removing some things and then going into the drop. What I want to show you now is like the opposite way to add some more time. So normally we like to work in regular patterns. So we have a break that's 16 bars, and then we have the drop that's like 8 bars and another 8 bars coming with the hi-hats, and then there will be another 16 bars, because that's just how dance music works, right? But in this particular case, what we can do is we can actually extend the break for like 1 bar, maybe 2 bar, maybe even 4 bar. So this will be like a little, like a cliffhanger, you know, the people will expect the drop to happen right there at after the 16 bars, which is here. But then we give it another 2 or 4 bars and the drop hits here. There's an easy way to do that in Ableton. We can either take all this and move it. Personally, I like to duplicate time like this. The shortcut is Command, Shift, and D. And it just duplicated this over here. And now I can just delete some stuff that I don't want. Like this here. This. I don't need it. And here the automation can just stay up. The rise is perfectly fine over here. And now this is where our drop hits. So there's a nice gap for us to fill now. And I want to try to do that with the lead sound over here. So I'm just gonna take this right over here. And let's just have a listen to get an idea what it sounds like. Nice. It's like, hey, I'm the lead. Thinking, 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 drop. You know, it's like just a little break, which makes everything a little more interesting. And what we can do here, I think just the same thing again. We have this bass sound here. Need to check on the automations. Yeah, we got them. And we can also take the clap perk right here. So it sounds like this. So instead of after rising up and then going back down with the arpeggiator, now we kind of like opened up a new space. The lead is kind of opening a new door, which then leads to the drop. That's pretty cool. And actually, I think we can also try to make this a little longer. So here again, the duplicating time shortcut is just super nice. Command-Shift-D. We just got this twice now. The drop hits here. And yeah, we can have a little fun here. What about those snare rolls? Sounds like this. Could be like a little percussion break in this gap. And then maybe put this one here again. We want the perk, that's for sure. Now let's have a listen for that. There's 1,000 ways now. We can try 1 or 2 more things. That's really a matter of taste. And it also depends on what the track sounds like on different parts. But for example, let's try this one. We just put this sound 1 octave higher when it repeats. I took away the percussion thingy here because I didn't like it too much. Maybe what we can do is work with a pad here. So we need something like this. And the frequency should go down. What does it sound like? That's also cool. So let's check this out. So as you can see, there's a million ways of doing that, and I really suggest to just go try this out, find your own way of doing it. But what you have to have in mind, and that's really important, is this technique is very, I would say, usual right now. So a lot of producers use it in all genres. We did melodic techno today, but it's common in techno, it's common in house, it's common in a lot of things. And that's just because it's so convenient and kind of easy also to create that tension, because everything's so high, people really want that drop, and then you give them another like 10 seconds or 5 seconds of begging for the drop. So keep that in mind. Try not to be too commercial, too standard if you don't want that. And the cooler you design it, the easier it will be to not face any issues here. As always, guys, it's a real pleasure to have you here. So hopefully see you next time for a new video, and until then, keep making music.